a scientist, I see it like this. These so-called near-death experiences occur when the brain is starved of oxygen and glucose. Death may occur in different ways, multiple organ failure or maybe an accident. Whatever happens, the blood supply to the brain is certainly affected. And when that happens, the neurons are starved of oxygen and glucose at the same time, and the brain cannot function at the level it has been functioning, and therefore the level of cognition goes down. And when it goes down sufficiently, a sort of hallucination starts, and that is similar to what happens when you take hallucinating drugs. You start seeing things, you start imagining things, and then if something happens to restore blood supply to your brain and things come back to normalcy, the neurons have some resilience. They can stay without oxygen and glucose for some small amount of time, and when they come back to functioning, what happens is they feel as if they have had a very different experience elsewhere, and then they have come back as if they have seen heaven and they have come back. In fact, the way the brain records information is by neurochemical impressions in the formed by neural networks. Neurons connect to each other by neurochemical means, and the more you reinforce it, the more it becomes hardened and strong. So when you die, what you remember is what has been reinforced a lot. Maybe if you have been talked to a lot about God and heaven and things, your parents, whatever has been very dear to you, what has been reiterated time and again, those memories are stronger, and therefore they get reiterated during near-death experiences. So possibly people believe they have seen God, they have seen their dead parents, and then they have come back. This is my take, or as a scientist on near-death experiences. I would tell them, no, there is no life after death. As a scientist, I would tell them that. But then culture and science are two different things. If one is born into a culture, one believes what one is taught by that culture. And if one opts to learn science, one believes what he is taught by science. And so, as a scientist, I would say there is no afterlife. Life ceases at death. The seven heavens, as I said, when you interact with people around you, with creatures around you, with animals, plants, with the environment around you, with your ecosystem, if you do good, you shed your karma, and if you do bad, you add to your karma. When you shed your karma, obviously you become lighter, and when you die, depending on how much karma you have accumulated or shed, you rise above or you fall down. And since you asked about the heavens, the seven heavens, let me name them. They are the Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, Mahatloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Devaloka. Loka here meaning a land or space, whatever. Or it's Bhu, Bhuva, Suva, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Deva. These are the seven levels of heaven. So depending upon how much karma you have shed in this life, you ascend level by level to the topmost Devaloka, where the Lord is Indra. Indra is the king of the Devaloka, and it is the traditional heaven as understood in many other religions, a place of ultimate ecstasy and pleasure, but materialistic and physical pleasures mostly. That is what's to be found in the Devaloka. Now when you look at the philosophical or other side of it, for sophisticated people, people who have understood a little and who don't care much about material or physical afterlives, there is another kind of heaven. There are gods like the Vishnu and Shiva, some Hindus follow Vishnu, they are devotees of Vishnu. Some Hindus are devotees of Shiva. So, when you become a devotee, it is believed that you are sophisticated, you have understood things, you have given up your desires for material pleasures, even in the afterworld. So, what such people, devotees, are offered is a place with Shiva, which is called Kailasa. That is another heaven for sophisticated people, where you don't get a lot of material pleasures, but you enjoy the benefit or the company of Lord Shiva. And for devotees of Vishnu, there is Vaikuntha, where you can, be with Vishnu. And there is also another concept for people who are more evolved, which talks about the Jivatma and the Paramatma. Now, Jivatma, in simple terms, in English, it is the soul. It is the atom of life that resides within every individual creature. And the Paramatma appears to be an agglomeration of a lot of Jivatmas, and which is infinite, from which if you pick out one Atma or another, or if you keep on picking out more Atmas, it continues to remain as it is, because it is infinite by nature. That is the nature of Paramatma. Or Paramatma is the God as seen in other religions, maybe Allah in Islam, or the Father in Christianity. So, an atom from the Paramatma comes down as an Atma, and when it enters a creature which is ready to be born, it becomes a Jivatma, means an Atma with a life. And any creature with the Jivatma within itself becomes a living creature and performs karma in that life. And having performed all the karmas of that life, lets escape the Jivatma or the soul, whereafter the creature dies, and that Jivatma becomes an Atma again, travels to Paramatma and gets united with it. This is the third and ultimate concept of heaven, the association of your Jivatma with the Paramatma. So there are three concepts. One for people who are not very evolved, the concept of seven heavens, and the ultimate Devaloka, where you get a lot of physical ecstasy and pleasure and the company of Indra. And then for slightly more evolved people, the devotees of the Lord, they get to either go to Vaikuntha or Kailasa, which are the abodes of Vishnu and Shiva respectively. And the highly evolved people, the rishis and the sages, their Jivatma comes out and combines with the Paramatma and becomes one of the whole. These are the three concepts of heaven or Swarga in Hinduism. Exactly, that's what I meant. When you shed all your karmas, when you become absolutely karma free, your Jivatma goes and merges with the Paramatma. But what if you have not shed all your karmas? You have some karmas. Then there are answers in all the three versions of heaven that I talked about. For the unevolved person, you rise or fall a step, like I would like to think of it as quantum levels, because there's nothing between the Bhuloka and the Bhuvarloka. You take a quantum jump between one and the other. And when you become lighter and go to the Bhuvarloka, like the multiple parallel universes that some scientists talk about, there is life in all these seven heavens at all times. In the Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, there are people, depending on their karmas, they have ascended or descended, And in all these worlds, there are people performing karmas. And having performed karmas, in this world, you go to a higher world, and there you perform some karmas, become heavier, come down to this loka. That is reincarnation for the unevolved man. For the highly evolved person, the Jivatma leaves the body, and if it is, weighed down by the weight of its karmas, it's unable to ascend and attain the Paramatma. Therefore, it wanders around for some time here and there, maybe as a ghost or whatever, and then ultimately it falls down to earth. And when it falls down to earth, depending on how heavy it is, when I say heavy, I mean heavy in terms of karma, it enters the, evolving fetus, the growing fetus of some creature. It could be an insect, it could be a fish, it could be whatever, it could be another human being. There are these caste systems in India, and it could be, it could go into the fetus of one of the people belonging to a very high caste, or maybe a lower caste, this kind of thing. This is how reincarnation is understood in Hinduism. No, this is not how it is understood. Because, as I said, most Hindus are ordinary people. So the concept of these 7 heavens, the ordinary concept applies to most of them. So what happens is, my ancestor, my father may be in, let us say, Maha Loka. My grandfather may be in Tapo Loka. Maybe somebody else is somewhere. So it's obviously impossible for all my ancestors to come together and receive me and welcome me to the other world. They are in different worlds, and so I am all alone. So what happens is, when I leave this body, it is believed that, again, there are the 2 interpretations for 2 different kinds of people, the sophisticated ones and the others. If I'm an ordinary man, I am supposed to take a boat across a river. This is also seen in other religions, in some other religions. The river is called Vaitarani. In fact, the lord of death in Hinduism is Yama. And he is said to have a lot of messengers, and those people come, they take you, and they escort you to the other world across the river Vaitarani, where there is I won't call him a person, or there is an entity called Chitragupta, who is forever observing the world and writing down your karmas as you perform it. You go to him, and then Chitragupta says, these are your, accumulated karmas, and now this is the loka you are bound for now, and you will have to go to this place, and then accordingly the soul goes to that place. That is the understanding. The Vedas mention the heavens, and an essence of the whole thing comes in what's called the Gayatri Mantra, which every devout Brahmin used to chant in the earlier times, and these days everybody in India, every Hindu chants the Gayatri Mantra, which goes like this: Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitrvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Where my ancestors, I believe, may have, I obviously wouldn't like to believe that my ancestors have gone to hell. I would believe that they have gone to at least some level of heaven. So this basically means I worship those of my ancestors who are in the Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, so Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha. And then I go on to worship the sun by saying Tat Savitrvarenyam You are the source of energy for the whole universe, and I worship you. So the Gayatri Mantra is an essence of all the Vedas. And the Vedas therefore obviously talk about these heavens. And then there are Upanishads which again talk about these in much more detail. And then there are Puranas which talk about these in forms of stories, in forms of epics, myths, so that people understand them better.